They humiliated me? Now I'm their verdict.
The smell of overcooked turkey and my mother-in-law's cheap perfume hit me like a 1-2 punch as I walked through Dorothy Mulaney's front door. Christmas at Dot's house was always an endurance test, but this year felt different. Marina had been acting strange for weeks, distant and cold, like she was planning something I wouldn't like. "Elliot, you're late," Dot announced from her throne-like armchair, not bothering to look up from her glass of wine. At 68, Dorothy Mulaney still commanded a room like the society queen she'd never actually been. Old money pretensions on a welfare budget, that was Dot. "Traffic was homicide," I replied, helping 8-year-old Emily out of her coat. My daughter looked up at me with those bright green eyes that reminded me why I put up with this family circus every year. "Daddy, why does Grandma Dot's house smell like old magazines?" Emily whispered. I bit back a laugh. "Just smile and be polite, sweetheart." Marina emerged from the kitchen wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. She looked stunning, which should have made me happy. Instead, it made my stomach clench. When had she started dressing up for family dinners? "Jordan's here," she announced, avoiding my eyes. "He brought wine." Jordan Voss, the real estate developer who'd been sniffing around Marina's martial arts studio for months, supposedly interested in expanding his fitness portfolio. Tall, tanned, and rich enough to make my freelance investigator salary look like pocket change. "How thoughtful," I said, watching Jordan emerge from the kitchen with a bottle that probably cost more than my car payment. "Eli, good to see you, buddy." Jordan's handshake lingered too long, his smile too bright. Everything about him screamed compensation for something. Dinner was the usual nightmare. Dot held court at the head of the table, criticizing everything from the weather to the president to my choice of career. Marina's sister Beth and her husband nodded along like bobbleheads, while their twin boys played with their phones and ignored everyone. "Emily, sit up straight," Dot commanded, "and stop playing with your food." "I'm not playing with it, Grandma Dot. I'm just not very hungry." "Well, that's too bad. In my day, children ate what was put in front of them and were grateful for it." I watched Emily shrink into her chair. She'd been quiet all evening, picking at the dry turkey and overcooked vegetables. The kid had better taste than the rest of us combined. "Maybe she'd like something else," I suggested. "Kids don't always—" "Don't coddle her, Elliot." Dot's voice could have cut glass. "She needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around her preferences." Jordan laughed, actually laughed at my daughter's discomfort. "Kids today are so spoiled. When I was her age, my father would have made me sit at the table until I cleaned my plate, even if it took all night." "Exactly," Dot said, warming to her audience. "Children need discipline. They need to understand their place." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she tried to hide it by looking down at her plate. That's when something inside me snapped. Not the explosive kind of snap that gets you arrested, but the cold, calculating kind that makes you dangerous. "You know what, Emily?" Dot continued, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "If you don't want to eat like a civilized person, maybe you'd prefer to eat like an animal." She stood up, walked to the kitchen, and returned with the dog bowl. The actual dog bowl that had belonged to her ancient poodle before it died last year. She set it on the floor next to Emily's chair. "There," Dot announced to the table. "If she wants to act like a picky little beast, she can eat from the beast's bowl." The table erupted in laughter. Beth giggled nervously. Her husband chuckled. The twins looked up from their phones to sneer, and Jordan practically howled with amusement. Even Marina smiled, though she tried to hide it behind her napkin. Emily started crying, not the loud, dramatic crying of a tantrum, but the quiet, heartbroken crying of a child who's just learned that the adults in her life can be cruel. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. The laughter died as everyone turned to look at me. I walked around the table, picked up my daughter, and held her close. "Get your coat, sweetheart," I said quietly. "Oh, come on, Elliot," Jordan said, still grinning. "It's just a joke. Don't be so sensitive." I turned to look at him, really look at him, and something in my expression made his smile falter. "You think humiliating an 8-year-old is funny?" I asked. "I think children need to learn." "You think anything about children, Jordan? Because last I checked, you don't have any. So maybe keep your parenting advice to yourself." "Elliot, please," Marina said, but there was no real conviction in her voice. "Mom was just trying to teach Emily some manners." by making her eat from a dog bowl in front of the whole family? I looked around the table at these people I'd been trying to please for 10 years. You all think this is acceptable? Silence. That's what I thought. I helped Emily into her coat and walked toward the door. If you leave now, don't bother coming back, Dot called after me. I paused at the door and turned around one last time. They were all watching me, waiting to see if I backed down like I always did, waiting for me to apologize and beg forgiveness for having the audacity to defend my daughter. You know what, Dot? And that's the best Christmas present you could have given me. As we walked to the car, Emily slipped her small hand into mine. Daddy, are we in trouble? No, sweetheart. We're finally free. But I was wrong. The trouble was just beginning. 6 months later, Marina was gone. Not gone like she'd left me. Gone like she'd vanished into thin air, taking Emily with her. I came home from a surveillance job to find the house empty, Emily's room cleaned out, and a note on the kitchen table. I'm taking Emily somewhere safe. Don't try to find us. M. I called the police, but Detective Max Lewin, an old contact from my newspaper days, explained what I already knew. When one parent takes a child, it's not technically kidnapping unless there's a custody order in place. Since Marina and I were still married, she had every legal right to take Emily anywhere she wanted. Any idea where she might have gone? Max asked, his weathered face creased with concern. Her mother's house would be my first guess. 20 minutes later, I was pounding on Dot's front door. She answered with a smile that could have powered a small city. Well, well. Look who's come crawling back. Where are they, Dot? Where are who? Don't play games with me? Where are Marina and Emily? I have no idea what you're talking about. But her eyes were dancing with malicious joy. Perhaps Marina finally came to her senses about the kind of man she married. I pushed past her into the house. Emily, are you here? Get out of my house, Dot shrieked. You have no right. I have every right to find my daughter. I searched the house, top to bottom, but they weren't there. When I came back downstairs, Jordan Voss was standing in the living room like he owned the place. Problem, Eli? He asked with that same insufferable smirk. What are you doing here? Dorothy called me. Said you were making threats. The only threat I'm making is to find my family. Your family? Jordan laughed. Funny thing about family, Eli. Sometimes people realize they've been settling for less than they deserve. Something in his tone, in the way he looked at me, made everything click into place. The expensive wine at Christmas dinner, Marina's new dress, the way she'd been working late at the dojo, the way Jordan had been hanging around, supposedly interested in investing. You son of a witch, I said. Now. Let's keep this civil. How long? How long what? How long have you been sleeping with my wife? Dot gasped dramatically, but Jordan just shrugged. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't? I stepped closer. Where are they? Somewhere you'll never find them. His mask slipped for just a moment, revealing the arrogant bastard underneath. Face it, Eli. You lost. Marina chose a real man. I wanted to hit him. God, I wanted to break his perfect nose and watch him bleed all over Dot's antique carpet. But I'd learned something in 10 years of investigative work. Violence is what stupid people do when they can't think of anything smarter. We'll see about that, I said, and walked out. 3 days later, Detective Lewin called with information that changed everything. Your wife was in prison, Eli. What? 6 months ago, county lockup, aggravated assault charge. That's impossible. Marina was home 6 months ago. We had Christmas dinner at her mother's house. Christmas was in December. She was arrested in January, released in March. 3 months, served 2 with good behavior. My mind raced. January. That's when Marina had started acting strange. That's when she'd begun working late, being secretive, avoiding my touch. What were the charges? Fight at her martial arts studio. Some kind of training accident that went too far. She put a woman in the hospital. Marina wouldn't. The woman was pressing charges, then suddenly dropped them. Your wife pled guilty to a lesser charge, did her time quietly, no media coverage, no public records. Someone with money and connections made sure this stayed buried. Someone like Jordan Voss. There's more, Max continued. I did some digging. Your wife filed for divorce yesterday. She's seeking full custody of your daughter, claiming you're an unfit parent. On what grounds? Mental instability? Claims you threatened her family? That you're obsessed with conspiracy theories about her having an affair? The room spun. They'd planned this. All of it. The prison sentence, the disappearance, the divorce. They'd been 3 steps ahead of me from the beginning. Max, I need a favor. What kind of favor? The kind that stays between us. There was a long pause. What do you need? Everything you can find on Jordan Voss, financial records, business dealings, personal life, everything. Eli, they took my daughter, Max. They humiliated her. They took her away from me. And now they're trying to make sure I never see her again. I'm not going to let that happen. Another pause. I'll see what I can do. After I hung up, I sat in my empty house and thought about Emily. Was she scared? Did she understand what was happening? Did she think I'd abandoned her? I walked into my home office and started pulling files. If Marina and Jordan wanted to play games, I'd show them what a real investigator could do. They'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated me. That was going to cost them everything. My basement became a war room. I'd always kept my case files down there, but now the entire space was dedicated to one investigation: destroying the people who'd stolen my daughter. I started with Jordan. In my experience, rich men who think they're untouchable always leave trails. They can't help themselves. They need everyone to know how successful they are, how much money they make, how many important people they know. Jordan Voss was no exception. His real estate company, Voss Development, had been involved in 6 major projects over the past 3 years. On the surface, everything looked legitimate. Luxury condos, shopping centers, office buildings, the kind of developments that made city councils salivate over increased tax revenue. But when I dug deeper, patterns emerged: zoning variances that shouldn't have been approved, environmental assessments that glossed over serious problems, construction permits fast-tracked through bureaucratic processes that usually took months. Someone was greasing palms. A lot of palms. I spent 2 weeks following Jordan, learning his routines. Coffee at Starbucks every morning at 7:30. Lunch meetings at the country club, evening workouts at an exclusive gym downtown, and twice a week, visits to a luxury apartment complex he owned on the east side of town, the same apartment complex where Marina's car was parked every Tuesday and Thursday night. I set up surveillance across the street using a telephoto lens to document their meetings. Jordan would arrive first, always in his silver Porsche. Marina would show up 20 minutes later in her Honda. They'd go upstairs together, stay for exactly 2 hours, then leave separately. Professional, careful, planned, but not careful enough. On the 3rd Thursday, I followed Marina when she left. Instead of going back to wherever she was staying with Emily, she drove to a law office downtown. Carter, Morrison, and Associates, high-end divorce attorneys who specialized in custody battles. I waited until she left, then walked into the building. The security guard was reading a newspaper and barely looked up when I flashed my investigator's license. "I'm here to see Mr. Carter about the Harper case," I said. "3rd floor, suite 304. James Carter was exactly what I'd expected. 50-something, expensive suit, silver hair, and the kind of smile that charged by the hour. His office walls were covered with diplomas and photos of him shaking hands with judges and politicians. "Mr. Harper," he said, standing to shake my hand. "I wasn't expecting to see you today." "I bet you weren't." He gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Please sit. Can I offer you coffee? Water? Information would be nice." His smile never wavered, but his eyes went cold. "I'm afraid I can't discuss the details of your wife's case with you directly. Attorney-client privilege, you understand." "Of course, but you can listen while I discuss a few things with you." I pulled out a manila folder and set it on his desk. "Jordan Voss, your client's boyfriend. Interesting financial history." Carter glanced at the folder but didn't touch it. "I don't know what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Jordan Voss has been paying bribes to city officials for 3 years. I have bank records, photographs, recorded conversations, enough to put him away for a decade. Even if that were true, it has nothing to do with your custody case. Doesn't it? Because, according to my research, Mr. Voss has been funding my wife's legal fees, which means he has a financial interest in the outcome of this case. Which means you have a conflict of interest representing her." Carter's smile finally cracked. "What do you want?" "I want to see my daughter." "That's not something I can arrange." "Then arrange a meeting with my wife. Neutral location, 1 hour. And if she refuses?" I stood up and walked toward the door. "Then tomorrow morning, every news outlet in the city gets a copy of everything in that folder. Jordan Voss's corruption scandal will be front-page news, and your law firm will be mentioned as representing his co-conspirator." You're making a serious mistake, Mr. Harper. No, I said. I already made my serious mistake. I trusted the wrong people. I won't make that mistake again. The meeting was set for Saturday afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral territory, public place, no lawyers present, just Marina and me, talking like adults about our daughter's future. I should have known it wouldn't be that simple. I arrived early and chose a table near the back, where I could see the entire restaurant. Marina walked in exactly on time, looking beautiful and nervous. She'd lost weight since I'd last seen her, and there were dark circles under her eyes. "Hello, Elliot. Marina, thank you for coming." She sat down across from me, her hands folded in her lap. "I can only stay a few minutes." "How is Emily?" "She's fine. She's adjusting." "Adjusting to what? To thinking her father abandoned her?" Marina's composure cracked slightly. "She knows you didn't abandon her. I explained that we needed some time apart." "Time apart? Is that what you call stealing my daughter and disappearing for 2 months?" "I didn't steal anyone. Emily is my daughter too." "Then act like her mother. Let me see her." "I can't do that." "Why not?" Marina looked around the coffee shop as if searching for an escape route. "It's complicated." "Complicated how?" "Because you're sleeping with Jordan Voss. Because he's paying your legal bills. Because you went to prison and didn't tell me?" She flinched at each accusation. "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me." "I can't." "Can't or won't?" Before she could answer, Jordan walked through the front door. He spotted us immediately and headed over, his face dark with anger. "What the heck is this?" he demanded. "This is a private conversation," I said without looking at him. "Not anymore." He pulled out a chair and sat down. "Marina, we're leaving." "She's not going anywhere until I get some answers." Jordan leaned forward, his voice low and threatening. "You're going to get your A kicked if you don't back off." "By who? You?" "If necessary." I looked at Marina, who was staring at the table like she wanted to disappear. "Is this the kind of man you want around our daughter? Someone who threatens violence in public?" "Jordan, please," Marina whispered. "Just go. I can handle this." "Like heck. This loser has been stalking us for weeks, following you, taking pictures, harassing your lawyer." "Following her?" I looked at Marina. "You knew I was watching you?" "Of course she knew," Jordan said. "We've been 3 steps ahead of you since day one. You think you're some kind of detective, but you're just a washed-up newspaper hack who can't accept that he lost." "Lost what?" "Everything. Your wife, your kid, your pathetic excuse for a life." That's when I noticed the other customers in the coffee shop were staring. Jordan's voice had been getting louder, more aggressive. Marina looked mortified. "You're making a scene," I said quietly. "I'm making a point. Stay away from Marina. Stay away from Emily. Find yourself a nice little apartment and a nice little job and a nice little life that doesn't involve my family." "Your family?" "That's right, my family. Marina and Emily are under my protection now, and I protect what's mine." I stood up slowly. Jordan tensed, probably expecting me to take a swing at him. Instead, I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. It was recording. "Thanks for that," I said. "My lawyer is going to love hearing about how you just claimed ownership of my wife and daughter in a public place." Jordan's face went white. "You can't." "I can, and I did. Threatening me is one thing, Jordan. But claiming you own my family? That's going to look great in court." I looked at Marina one last time. "When you're ready to tell me the truth, you know where to find me. Until then, I'll be fighting for my daughter." I walked out of the coffee shop and got in my car, my hands shaking with adrenaline. I'd gotten what I came for, proof that Jordan was controlling Marina, evidence of his possessive behavior, and confirmation that they were both afraid of what I might discover. But I'd also realized something else. Marina wasn't just betraying me. She was scared. Whatever hold Jordan had over her, it went deeper than money or romance. I was going to find out what it was, and when I did, I was going to use it to destroy him. The parking garage was perfect for what I had planned. 6 levels, dimly lit, security cameras that hadn't worked in years. I'd been watching Jordan's patterns for 3 weeks, and he always parked on the 4th level when he had dinner at Romano's Italian restaurant. I waited in the shadows between 2 SUVs, checking my watch. 8:15. Jordan never stayed at Romano's past 9 o'clock, which gave me plenty of time. At 8:47, the elevator dinged, and Jordan stepped out, talking loudly on his phone about some real estate deal. He was wearing a custom-tailored navy suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. No, he was saying. "I told you the permits need to be expedited. I don't care who you have to call or how much it costs. Make it happen." He ended the call and headed toward his Porsche, keys jingling in his hand. That's when I stepped out of the shadows. "Jordan." He spun around, startled. "What the heck are you doing here?" "We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you." He continued walking toward his car. "I think you do." He stopped and turned to face me. In the harsh fluorescent lighting, his tan looked fake and his perfect smile looked predatory. "You're starting to piss me off, Eli. I told you to stay away from my family." "They're not your family. They are now. Marina made her choice. Emily will learn to accept it. Emily is 8 years old. She doesn't get a choice in this. Kids adapt. She'll get over you eventually." The casual cruelty in his voice made my blood boil, but I kept my expression neutral. "You're right about one thing. This is about choices. And you've made some interesting ones lately." "What's that supposed to mean?" I pulled out a manila envelope and tossed it on the hood of his car. "Take a look." Jordan glanced at the envelope but didn't touch it. "What is this?" "Your insurance policy? The reason Marina can't leave you even if she wanted to?" His confident expression flickered for just a moment. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The martial arts incident. The woman Marina supposedly assaulted. Funny thing about that case. The victim withdrew her complaint after receiving a very generous settlement from an anonymous donor. So the anonymous donor was you, which means you were involved in whatever happened at that dojo, which means Marina didn't assault anyone. She was protecting someone." Jordan's jaw tightened. "You're fishing." "Am I? Because I found the victim. Nice woman named Sarah Chen. Single mother, 2 kids, working 3 jobs to pay for her daughter's medical bills. Sarah was very grateful for that settlement money. So grateful that she was willing to tell me the real story." I could see the wheels turning in Jordan's head, calculating risks and options. "Sarah's daughter has leukemia," I continued. "Expensive treatments, experimental pills, the works. Sarah was desperate for money, so when you approached her with a business proposition, she listened. You can't prove any of this. Can't I? Sarah kept records, bank deposits, text messages, even a recording of your phone call where you explained exactly what you wanted her to do." Jordan lunged forward and grabbed the envelope, tearing it open. Inside were photocopies of bank statements, text message screenshots, and a CD labeled Jordan Voss Insurance Policy. "You son of a witch," he whispered. "The plan was elegant," I said. Sarah would provoke a fight at Marina's dojo. Marina would defend herself, maybe push Sarah or throw a punch. Sarah would claim she was seriously injured, press charges, demand a settlement. You'd swoop in as Marina's savior, pay Sarah's medical bills, and Marina would be so grateful that she'd do whatever you wanted. You're insane. But something went wrong, didn't it? Marina figured out what was happening. She realized Sarah was faking the injury, that the whole thing was a setup. So she made a choice. She confessed to assault charges she didn't commit to protect Sarah and her sick daughter. Jordan's hands were shaking as he rifled through the papers. "That's when you had her," I continued. "Marina pled guilty to a crime you orchestrated. You could destroy her reputation, her business, her relationship with Emily anytime you wanted. All you had to do was threaten to reveal the truth." The truth is that your wife is a violent criminal who belongs in prison. The truth is that you blackmailed her into leaving me. You used a sick child as bait to trap my wife, and then you held her freedom hostage to get what you wanted." Jordan straightened his tie and tried to regain his composure. "Even if any of this fantasy were true, you still can't prove it." "Actually, I can. Sarah Chen is willing to testify. She's tired of living with the guilt, especially now that her daughter is in remission. She wants to come clean. Sarah won't testify against me. She can't afford to give back the settlement money. She doesn't have to give it back. The money was payment for pain and suffering she actually experienced. Just not the way the police report described it. The real pain was being forced to participate in your scheme." Jordan crumpled the papers and threw them on the ground. "What do you want?" "I want my family back." "That's not going to happen." "Then I guess we'll see how this plays out in court, and in the newspapers, and on social media. Amazing how fast a story can spread these days." "You're making a mistake, Eli, a big one. The only mistake I made was trusting people who didn't deserve it. But that's a mistake I won't make twice." Jordan stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You think you're so smart, but you have no idea what you're dealing with. I have friends in this city, important friends, people who owe me favors. Like the city councilman you've been bribing, the building inspectors you've been paying off, those friends. His face went pale. How did you? I'm a professional investigator, Jordan. This is what I do. And right now I'm investigating you. You're threatening me. I'm informing you there's a difference. Jordan looked around the parking garage, probably wondering if anyone was watching or listening. He was finally starting to understand that he wasn't in control of the situation. What do you want? He asked again. I want you to tell Marina the truth. I want you to explain how you manipulated her, blackmailed her, and used her love for Emily against her. I want you to give her the choice you stole from her. And if I refuse, then tomorrow morning, Detective Max Lewin gets copies of everything I found. The bribery evidence, the blackmail scheme, Sarah Chen's testimony, all of it. You'll be arrested by lunch. Jordan was quiet for a long moment, staring at the scattered papers on the concrete floor. When he looked up, his expression had changed from arrogance to desperation. You don't understand, he said. Marina won't leave me, even if she knows the truth. She's in too deep now. What do you mean? The divorce, the custody battle, everything we've done to you, she's complicit in all of it. If the truth comes out, she goes down too. Marina was protecting her daughter. Any jury would understand that. Would they? Would they understand why she lied to you for months? Why she let you think you were going crazy? Why she helped me destroy your reputation and steal your child? For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I felt a flicker of doubt. Had Marina been a willing participant in Jordan's scheme, or was she another victim? I guess we'll find out, I said. Jordan bent down and started gathering the scattered papers. You're going to regret this, Eli. Both of you. The only thing I regret is not seeing through your act sooner. He stood up, clutching the papers to his chest. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. Jordan got in his Porsche and drove away, tires squealing on the concrete. I waited until his taillights disappeared, then pulled out my phone and called Detective Lewin. It's done, I said when he answered. How did he take it? About as well as expected. He's scared. Scared men do stupid things. I'm counting on it. The next morning, Jordan called Marina and told her everything. I know because I was listening. Sarah Chen had agreed to wear a wire during their meeting, and Jordan's confession was recorded in high-definition audio. By noon, Marina was at my front door, crying and asking for forgiveness. But forgiveness was the last thing on my mind. Marina looked smaller somehow, standing on my front porch with tears streaming down her face. The confident woman who'd walked out of my life had been replaced by someone fragile and desperate. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside and let her enter. She walked into the living room and stood awkwardly near the couch as if she wasn't sure she belonged there anymore. Where's Emily? I asked. She's at my mother's house. She doesn't know I'm here. Does she know what's been happening, the real story? Marina shook her head. I told her we were having problems and needed some time apart. I didn't want to confuse her. Confuse her? Marina, she thinks I abandoned her. She thinks I chose not to see her for 2 months. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about everything. She sat down on the couch and buried her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Jordan told me what you found out, she said without looking up. About Sarah, about the setup, about everything. And he's right. I'm just as guilty as he is. I lied to you. I lied to the police. I let you think you were losing your mind. Why? She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. Because I was scared. Because I thought I was protecting Emily. Because I made a series of terrible decisions and then couldn't figure out how to undo them. I sat down in the chair across from her, maintaining distance between us. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything. Marina took a shaky breath. It started about 8 months ago. Jordan began showing up at the dojo, asking about investment opportunities. He was charming, successful, everything you'd expect from a wealthy businessman. When did it become personal? It didn't, not at first. He would hang around after classes, talking about his business, his travels, his philosophy about success. I thought he was just lonely. When did you realize he wanted more than business advice? Christmas dinner at my mother's house. The way he looked at you, the way he encouraged mom's cruelty, I realized he saw you as competition. But you didn't tell me. I should have, but I thought I could handle it myself. I thought if I made it clear I wasn't interested, he'd back off. Obviously that didn't work. Marina laughed bitterly. Jordan doesn't take no for an answer. When I rejected his advances, he got angry. He started making threats. What kind of threats? At first, just business threats. He said he'd make sure no other investors would work with me, that he'd spread rumors about my teaching methods, that kind of thing. But it escalated. Sarah Chen started coming to classes in January. She was obviously struggling financially, and she had this desperate energy that made me want to help her. She mentioned her daughter's medical bills, so I gave her a discount on membership fees. That's when Jordan made his move. Sarah told me later that he approached her in the parking lot one evening. He knew about her daughter's condition, knew exactly how much money she needed. He offered to help, in exchange for setting you up. She was supposed to provoke a fight during class, then claim I attacked her without cause. Jordan would pay her medical bills and legal fees, and I'd be forced to close the dojo. But you figured it out. Not right away. Sarah was a good actress. She started arguments with other students, questioned my teaching methods, generally made herself obnoxious. I thought she was just stressed about her daughter. What changed? I overheard a phone conversation. Sarah was talking to someone about the plan and how she didn't think she could go through with it. When she saw me listening, she broke down and confessed everything. So you made a deal with her. I told her to go ahead with the plan, but to make it look like I was defending another student. That way, any assault charges would be justified as protecting someone else. Except you pled guilty. Jordan was there when the police arrived. He'd been watching from his car, waiting to play the hero. When he realized what had actually happened, he threatened to expose Sarah's part in the scheme unless I pled guilty to assault. He had you trapped. Completely. If I told the truth, Sarah would lose the settlement money and probably face charges for filing a false police report. Her daughter would lose her medical care. So you went to prison to protect her. It was only supposed to be a few weeks. Minimum security, early release for good behavior. Jordan said if I did my time quietly, he'd make sure Emily was taken care of. And you believed him. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe there was a way out of this mess that didn't hurt innocent people. But prison changed things. Marina nodded. Jordan visited me every week. At first, he was supportive, promising that everything would work out. But gradually, his visits became more possessive. He started talking about our future together, about how Emily needed a strong father figure. He was grooming you. I didn't see it at the time. I was isolated, scared, desperate for any kind of emotional support. When he talked about taking care of us, it felt like salvation. Until you got out. When I was released, Jordan had everything planned. He'd rented an apartment for Emily and me, enrolled her in a new school, even picked out furniture. He presented it as temporary assistance, but it was really a cage. Why didn't you call me? He showed me photographs. What kind of photographs? You following me before I was arrested. You talking to my students. You parked outside my mother's house. He said you'd been stalking me, that you were obsessed and potentially dangerous. You believed that? I didn't know what to believe. You had been asking a lot of questions, and some of my students mentioned that you'd been around the dojo asking about my schedule. I was trying to figure out why you were acting strange. I know that now. But at the time, combined with everything else that was happening, it seemed possible that you'd become unhinged. So you decided to leave me. Jordan convinced me it was the only way to keep Emily safe. He said you'd never accept another man in our lives, that you'd try to turn Emily against me, that a custody battle would destroy all of us. And you believed him. He was very convincing, and I was very vulnerable. We sat in silence for several minutes. I could hear the clock ticking on the mantel, the sound of traffic outside, the normal sounds of a world that had kept spinning while my life fell apart. What about Emily? I asked finally. She misses you terribly. She asks about you every day. What do you tell her? That Daddy is working through some problems and needs time to figure things out? She thinks this is my fault. I've tried to keep her from thinking that, but... Marina's voice trailed off. But she's 8 years old, and her father disappeared from her life without explanation. I'm sorry, Elliot. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back 2 months with my daughter. I know. Sorry doesn't undo the damage you've done to Emily's trust. I know. Sorry doesn't change the fact that you chose to believe a stranger over your husband. Marina started crying again. What do you want me to do? How can I fix this? You can start by bringing Emily home. Jordan won't let me. Jordan doesn't get a vote anymore. You don't understand. He has evidence of everything we've done. The fake assault charges, the perjury, the custody manipulation. If he goes to the police, I could go back to prison. Not if he goes to prison first. Marina looked up at me with something that might have been hope. What do you mean? I mean, Jordan Voss is about to have the worst week of his life. I walked over to my desk and pulled out a thick folder. Bribery, extortion, conspiracy, fraud. I have enough evidence to put him away for 20 years. But if he's arrested, he'll tell them everything about me. Not if he's too busy trying to save his own skin. I handed her the folder. Take a look. Marina opened the folder and began reading. Her eyes widened as she saw the bank records, the recorded conversations, the sworn statements from Jordan's victims. How did you get all this? I'm good at my job, and Jordan made a lot of enemies over the years. People were eager to talk once they knew someone was finally listening. This is enough to destroy him. That's the idea. Marina closed the folder and looked at me with something I hadn't seen in months. Respect. What happens now? Now, you make a choice. You can keep living in Jordan's cage, pretending this is all for Emily's benefit, or you can help me put him where he belongs. What would I have to do? Testify. Tell the truth about the blackmail, the manipulation, everything he did to control you. I could go to prison. You could, but probably not. You were coerced, manipulated, threatened. Any decent prosecutor would see you as a victim, not a co-conspirator. And if they don't, then we'll deal with that when it happens. But Marina, if you don't do this, Jordan wins. He keeps Emily, he keeps you, and he gets away with everything. Marina was quiet for a long time, staring at the folder in her lap. There's something else, she said finally. What? Jordan has been talking about moving, taking Emily and me to California where he has business interests. He says it would be a fresh start. When? Next week. The room seemed to tilt. If Jordan took Emily to California, I might never see her again. He had enough money and connections to disappear completely, and enough leverage over Marina to ensure her cooperation. That's not going to happen, I said. How can you stop it? By ending this, tonight. I stood up and walked to the phone. Detective Lewin, it's Eli. We need to move now. The arrest happened at dawn. I watched from across the street as police cars surrounded Jordan's luxury condo building, their red and blue lights painting the morning sky like a fireworks display. Detective Lewin had coordinated everything perfectly: search warrants, arrest warrants, even a forensic accountant to seize Jordan's financial records. Jordan was led out in handcuffs, wearing a bathrobe and an expression of absolute shock. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked small and powerless. My phone buzzed with a text from Max. Package delivered. No return receipt required. Marina had spent the night at my house, sleeping in the guest room while we waited for news. When I told her Jordan had been arrested, she broke down crying, not from sadness, but from relief. It's really over? She asked. The criminal part is over. Jordan won't be bothering anyone for a long time. What about Emily? That's up to you. Where is she? Still at my mother's house. I should call. Don't call. Let's go get her. The drive to Dot's house was tense. Marina sat in the passenger seat, nervously checking her phone for news updates about Jordan's arrest. I kept my eyes on the road and my thoughts focused on Emily. In less than an hour, I'd see my daughter for the first time in 2 months. What if she's angry with me? I asked. She won't be. She's been asking about you constantly. What if she doesn't understand why I stayed away? She's smart, Elliot. Smarter than either of us gave her credit for. She knew something was wrong. We pulled into Dot's driveway behind Marina's Honda. The house looked exactly the same. Faded paint, overgrown bushes, the same aura of genteel decay that had always depressed me. Marina rang the doorbell. After a few moments, Dot answered, wearing a housecoat and a scowl. Marina? What are you doing here so early? I came to get Emily. Get her? What do you mean, get her? I mean, we're going home. Dot's eyes narrowed. Home where? Jordan said you were moving to California next week. Jordan was wrong about a lot of things. That's when Dot noticed me standing behind Marina. Her expression shifted from confusion to fury. What is he doing here? He's Emily's father, Marina said simply. I thought we'd established that he was an unfit parent. We established that I was a liar, Marina replied. There's a difference. Before Dot could respond, I heard a voice from inside the house that made my heart stop. Mommy? Is that Daddy? Emily appeared in the hallway behind Dot, wearing pajamas and the biggest smile I'd seen in months. She pushed past her grandmother and ran toward me. Daddy, you came back! I caught her in my arms and held her tight, breathing in the familiar smell of her strawberry shampoo. She felt bigger somehow, like she'd grown in the 2 months we'd been apart. I missed you so much, sweetheart. I missed you too. Grandma Dot said you were sick and couldn't see me. I looked over Emily's head at Dot, who had the grace to look embarrassed. I'm feeling much better now, I told Emily. Are we going home? Yes, we're going home. All of us? I looked at Marina, who nodded. All of us. Dot stepped forward, her voice sharp with indignation. Now wait just a minute. You can't just waltz in here and take Emily. There are legal proceedings. The legal proceedings are over, I said. Marina is dropping the divorce petition and the custody case. Jordan won't allow that. Jordan is in jail, Marina said quietly. Dot's face went white. What? He was arrested this morning. Bribery, extortion, conspiracy. He's going to prison for a very long time. That's impossible. Jordan is a respected businessman. Jordan is a criminal, I said. And anyone who helped him is going to have to answer for it. The implied threat hung in the air. Dot had been complicit in Jordan's scheme, encouraging Marina to leave me and supporting the custody battle. If prosecutors wanted to build a conspiracy case, she could easily be included. Emily, go pack your things, Marina said. We're leaving. Can I bring Mr. Whiskers? Emily asked, referring to a stuffed cat that had been her constant companion since she was 3. Of course. Emily ran upstairs, leaving the 3 adults standing awkwardly in the foyer. This isn't over, Dot said, but her voice lacked conviction. Yes, it is, I replied. And if you're smart, you'll accept that and try to rebuild your relationship with your granddaughter. Because if you keep playing games, you'll lose her completely. Dot opened her mouth to argue, then seemed to think better of it. She walked into the living room and sat down heavily in her chair, suddenly looking every one of her 68 years. Emily came downstairs carrying a small suitcase and her stuffed cat. I'm ready. Did you say goodbye to Grandma Dot? Marina asked. Emily walked into the living room and hugged her grandmother. Bye, Grandma. I'll see you soon, okay? Dot hugged her back, tears in her eyes. Okay, sweetheart. As we walked to the car, Emily slipped her hand into mine. Daddy, are you and Mommy going to get divorced? Marina and I exchanged glances over her head. We're going to work on our problems, I said. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, and it takes time to fix them. Did Mommy make a mistake? We both made mistakes. But you still love each other? I looked at Marina, who was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. We love you, I said, and that's the most important thing. Emily seemed satisfied with that answer. She chattered happily during the drive home, telling me about her new school, her temporary friends, and all the things she wanted to show me. When we pulled into our driveway, she ran up to the front door and waited impatiently for me to unlock it. Everything looks the same, she announced, running through the house like she was rediscovering a lost treasure. Marina stood in the living room, looking uncertain. I can stay in a hotel if you prefer. Don't be ridiculous. This is your home too. Is it after everything that's happened? We'll figure it out, one day at a time. That evening, after Emily had gone to bed, Marina and I sat on the back porch drinking coffee and talking about the future. I know you can't forgive me, she said. Not completely, not for what I did to Emily. Forgiveness isn't the right word, I replied. Understanding, maybe. Acceptance of what happened and why it happened. What about us? Is there an us anymore? I don't know. Too much has happened, too much trust has been broken, but we're Emily's parents, and that means we'll always be connected. I love you, Elliot. I know I have a strange way of showing it, but I do. I know, and I love you too. But love isn't always enough. We sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies dance in the backyard, somewhere in the distance. A dog was barking, and someone was playing music too loud. Normal suburban sounds that I'd taken for granted before my world fell apart. What happens to Jordan? Marina asked. He'll probably plea bargain. 20 years reduced to 10, maybe less if he cooperates with other investigations. And Sarah Chen? She'll testify against him, then try to rebuild her life. Her daughter is doing well, by the way. The treatment's worked. I'm glad. Are you? Even though helping her cost you everything? Marina considered the question. I'd do it again. She was innocent in all this, just a desperate mother trying to save her child. Even if it meant going to prison? Even then. That's when I knew there was still something worth saving in my marriage. Marina had made terrible choices, but she'd made them for the right reasons. She'd been manipulated and coerced, but when it mattered most, she'd chosen to protect an innocent child rather than save herself. We should go to counseling, I said. Both of us? All three of us. Emily's been through trauma too. She needs help processing what happened. Will it work? Counseling? I don't know, but we owe it to Emily to try. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Emily laughing in the kitchen. I found her sitting at the table eating cereal while Marina made coffee. Daddy, Mommy says we can go to the park today. That sounds great, sweetheart. And then maybe we can get ice cream? If you eat all your vegetables at lunch. Deal. Marina smiled at me over Emily's head. It wasn't the same smile she'd given me before everything fell apart, but it was genuine. It was a start. My phone rang. Detective Lewin. Morning, Eli. Thought you'd want to know Jordan's lawyer is already talking about a plea deal. That was fast. Rich guys don't like jail cells, especially when they're facing 20 to life. What's he offering? Full cooperation in exchange for reduced charges, names, dates, bank records, the whole 9 yards. Turns out he's been bribing city officials for 5 years, not 3. What about Marina? Prosecutor reviewed her case. Given the circumstances, they're not filing charges. She was clearly a victim of coercion. Thank you, Max. Don't thank me. Thank your wife. Her testimony yesterday was what sealed the deal. After I hung up, I looked at Marina. It's over. Officially over. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. I can't believe it. Believe it. Jordan can't hurt you anymore. Can't hurt any of us. Emily looked up from her cereal. Who's Jordan? Marina and I exchanged glances. We'd agreed to tell Emily the truth, age appropriately, when she was ready to hear it. Jordan was someone who caused problems for our family, Marina said. But he can't cause problems anymore. Is that why we had to stay at Grandma Dot's house? Part of the reason, yes. I didn't like staying there. Grandma Dot is mean to you, Daddy. Sometimes people are mean when they're unhappy, I said. But that doesn't make it okay. Are you going to be mean to Mommy because she made mistakes? Out of the mouths of babes. No, sweetheart. Mommy and I are going to work together to fix our mistakes. Good, because I love both of you, and I want us to be a family. We are a family, Marina said. No matter what happens, we'll always be a family. That afternoon, we went to the park. Emily played on the swings while Marina and I sat on a bench, watching her and talking about practical things. Counseling appointments, legal paperwork, Emily's school enrollment. There's something I need to tell you, Marina said during a lull in the conversation. What? The night before Jordan was arrested, he called me. He was drunk, angry, talking about how you'd ruined everything. What did he say? He threatened to hurt you, physically hurt you. I think he might have been serious. It doesn't matter now. It matters to me. I realized that night that I'd rather lose everything than see you get hurt because of my mistakes. Is that why you decided to testify against him? Partly. But mostly I did it because Emily deserves better than a mother who's too afraid to fight for what's right. I reached over and took her hand. She's got a good mother. A mother who went to prison to protect an innocent child. A mother who stood up to a dangerous man when it mattered most. A mother who lied to her husband and stole 2 months of his life with his daughter. A mother who's human, who made mistakes, who's trying to make things right. Emily ran over to us, breathless and grinning. Push me on the swings, Daddy. Okay, but just for a few minutes. Then we need to go home. Are we having dinner together? All 3 of us? Yes. Like a real family? We are a real family, Emily. We always have been. As I pushed Emily on the swings, I thought about the past 6 months. The humiliation, the betrayal, the fear, the anger, but also the investigation, the satisfaction of uncovering the truth, the sweet taste of justice served. Jordan Voss had tried to destroy my family. Instead, he'd made us stronger. He'd forced us to confront problems we'd been ignoring, to fight for what mattered most, to choose each other when it would have been easier to walk away. That evening, as we sat around the dinner table, the same table where Emily had been humiliated 6 months earlier, I made a decision. I have something for you, Emily. I went to the kitchen and returned with a small gift box. What is it? She asked, eyes bright with curiosity. Open it and see. Inside the box was a small silver locket with her picture inside. It's beautiful, Daddy. I want you to wear it and remember that no matter what happens, no matter where you go or who tries to hurt you, you are loved. You are precious. You deserve respect. Will you help me put it on? As I fastened the locket around her neck, Emily looked up at me with complete trust and love. "Daddy? I'm glad you came back." "I'm glad too, sweetheart. I'm glad too." Later that night, after Emily was asleep and Marina had gone to bed in the guest room, I sat in my office looking at the files I'd accumulated during my investigation. Bank records, photographs, transcripts, witness statements, the evidence that had brought down Jordan Voss and freed my family. I thought about burning it all, making a clean break with the past. But then I remembered something Jordan had said in the parking garage. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." He'd been wrong about that. I'd known exactly what I was dealing with. A predator who used money and power to manipulate vulnerable people. A man who thought he was untouchable because he'd never faced real consequences for his actions. But he'd underestimated me. He'd seen a washed-up journalist and failed to recognize a skilled investigator. He'd assumed I'd give up when things got difficult, not realizing that threatening my daughter had awakened something primal and relentless. I put the files in my safe. Not because I thought I'd need them again, but because they represented something important. Proof that ordinary people could fight back against bullies and win. 6 months ago, Jordan Voss had humiliated my daughter and stolen my family. Tonight, he was sitting in a jail cell, facing 20 years in prison, while I was home with the people I loved most. Justice had been served, and it tasted better than I'd ever imagined.